But if you just use ChatGPT out of the box and ask it to write 100 blog posts about your topic and you publish that, yes, you're gonna tank and you're gonna get your website in trouble. So you need to do it smartly. You need a framework. You need to feed your AI of choice with your content guidelines, with your goals, with your objective, with your brand identity, with a scenario. What are you trying to do? What type of content are you building? Blogs? Are you building landing pages, hyper-local guides, buying guides, product guides? What the hell are you doing? Give them examples, and then you still need human moderation. You can't just expect the AI to come up with a perfect content. Also, on every output, it has its limit that it doesn't really like to go over around 500 words or so. So it's a process that needs to be run by a human. You will be creating an outline first and then writing section by section and then putting everything together. So you can completely leverage AI.
Thanks for coming on the podcast, Marco. Really appreciate it. It's great to have you, and I'm really interested to learn about your marketing expertise and what you've kind of been working on. So, if you could give us a too long didn't read on kind of who you are and what you're working on and kind of, what got you here.
Sure. Thanks for having me. So my short question when people ask me what I do is SEO.
Yeah.
And then if I see them staring blank at me, I explain a little further. SEO is search engine optimization. It's helping my clients rank their websites high in Google. And that could mean many different things. But basically, you offer a product or a service, and your prospects are out there somewhere in the world. And whenever they need something, they go and search it up on Google. And if it's related to what you're selling, you want to come up on top. Sometimes that means they are searching for something that means they are ready to buy. Like, I need a commercial cleaner in Auckland. And then you show up as a commercial cleaner in Auckland. And that's buying traffic. That's worth a lot. It's really valuable. But a lot of the times people are not in buying mode. They are researching. They are finding out about the problem they are having. So you also want to publish related content that when people can find you, not necessarily when they are looking for your service, but in a prior stage in the funnel. And you show up with your content, they find you, you start building your reputation, your trust, your expertise. And eventually when they are ready to buy, they already know you, that you're not a stranger anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they reach out to you.
Okay. That's cool. And, how did you go, what was the kind of lead up to you starting your own gig?
So my background, I studied communications back in the day, back in Argentina before I came in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And my first jobs in the country were web development, web design, all that kind of stuff. I'm talking back in 2003, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
And at the time, Google was booming. It was becoming the big search engine. And I was curious, like, what the hell are these guys doing that is so much better and different than Yahoo, AltaVista, and all the other search engines that were falling behind? And I just started learning SEO by myself. Basically, I started going to forums and blogs and running my own experiments. And eventually, I started, I had my blog, and then I picked up a few clients. And next thing I knew, people were asking me about SEO. I was consulting SEO, then I worked at Yellow Pages for a while, then I started an agency, and things just grew up from there. But it was always about being passionate about ranking in Google. There's a bit of a thrill because there's only 10 spots on page 1, and really you want to be in the top 3 because the amount of traffic you get from position 5 and 6 downwards is not that much.
Right.
So you're in a dogfight with your competitors, and it can be a lot of fun if you do the right things and you start seeing results putting through. There's a bit of a thrill, and your clients are happy. I just find it's what I like to do.
Yeah. And when you decide, because you're running your own business, at what point did you decide to start that and actually were you always an entrepreneur and always building your own businesses and being like kind of a contractor or a solo entrepreneur, or did you get some experience elsewhere and then?
Yeah, I always had the motivation to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Um, and this is blending with my personal life story, but I had my first kid very young.
Yeah.
At 24.
Oh yeah.
So at the time, I didn't have the luxury to be an entrepreneur. I had bills to pay.
Yeah.
So I had a job, and then I would come back home, and like I said, like dive into forums, blogs, run my own SEO experiments. I would go to sleep at past midnight, wake up the next day, go to my job, do my job, come back home, and go through the whole thing again. So I was quite motivated to get the skills first and eventually find a way to break out of the 9 to 5 kind of lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how long did that take?
That took about, well, there were ups and downs. Overall, I'd say there were 3-4 years of ups and downs until eventually I was 100% in consulting and running my own stuff.
Oh yeah, but that's great, right? Because that gives you that freedom to, or the lack of pressure when you're just starting something new and you're just getting the skills and you're getting your first clients and you're starting to build some income from it. Obviously, it's so much nicer when you don't have that pressure of it's everything, right? Gives you that kind of stepping stone
Well,
to.
yeah. And it's a personal decision. Maybe if I didn't have a kid at the time, I would have
Got
jumped a lot earlier because worst thing can happen. You just eat from a tuna can for a while and and that's it. But when you have a kid, you need to keep everything running.
Totally, yeah, yeah. Similar. I had a kid our first child very young.
Okay.
But and I was working actually for myself. Yeah, don't know why I did that, but like you say, it's a bit difficult in the early days because there's a lot of pressure. But there's a reward at the end of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's at the end of the day, I'm not trying to sound like a motivational guy, but if you don't quit, you're gonna make it. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So some people think that they're cursed or that anything they do, they're gonna have bad luck and it's not gonna work, and that's just not the case. As long as you don't quit, it's gonna work out eventually. Maybe it's gonna take longer than you expect. I in the wall of I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and oh really?
I could tell.
Okay, cool. And at the wall in my gym we have a quote that says, "Black belt is a white belt that never quits."
Where do you train?
In Douglas in this team.
Oh, okay, yep. I know. Yeah.
So that to me, that's if you take that to heart, you just don't quit. And no matter what you do, eventually, if you keep doing it, it's gonna work out.
Yeah. Nice. Also, how
It take longer.
long have you been training?
12 years now.
Oh wow. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've been training 6 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Probably a purple belt.
Yeah. That's right. That's about right. Yeah, and we'll see when I eventually get given the opportunity to go up. I mean, but that's your coach chooses that. I'm at Tukaha.
Right. Yeah, there is politics more.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. Like yeah, belts is I think secondary. I think belt just shows like your growth as an individual. Although I kind of like the idea of a belt being it's hard because when you start jiu-jitsu, it's a different. You're playing against yourself in a sense because you might start when you're 40.
Yeah.
Then getting your black belt, you're not going to be like a black belt that you trained from 15 and got their black belt at 23 or 24 or something, right? Like it's a completely different type of black.
Yeah, everyone is on their journey. I know people that started training at 50. I started at 35. My nephew started at 12, I think. My kid started at 8. We all are on different jobs.
Totally, yeah. It's such a great opportunity to just be present. That's what I love about training.
Yeah, absolutely. You go there and it's mindfulness. You only think about that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. And so you're from Argentina. When did you move to New Zealand?
I arrived here at the end of 2002.
Okay.
Something I've been thinking lately is people used to be more proud of New Zealand and being a Kiwi and Auckland in general. The last few years here, there's people are a bit pessimistic in terms of, oh, the economy is in a downturn and a lot of young people are going to Australia.
Yeah.
And when I came here, it was kind of the opposite. It was like everything was booming and everyone was excited.
Right.
I wish we could get
Back
that
there.
kind of optimism back again.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Yeah, it happens, right? It's very cyclical. And like you say, I think that yeah, the last few years have been a difficult time. I think that people have having to deal with a kind of an adjustment that I guess they weren't expecting, perhaps. I think the structural change around interest rates and how concentrated everyone's wealth is in property has really kind of had a flow-on effect to business optimism ultimately, because a lot of funding is really ultimately funded through people's property. Like a lot of business funding kind of stems back to, property, because you might take a loan against you might extend your mortgage to start a business, for example. And then if the interest rates are going up, your payments are getting higher, and you feel less optimistic about everything else. So it's been a bit of a sucky situation. I too hope for like a resurgence of optimism, and there are companies out there doing that and like getting that optimism back. But it permeates from person to person, right? So you need to have that shift from more than 50% of people maybe being a bit more negative to then getting into that positive mindset.
Yeah.
But that's beyond my pay grade to work out how to solve that for sure.
Yeah.
So you moved here, and do you have kids here as well?
Yeah, I have 3 kids. They're all born here.
Yeah, nice. And what do you think you can give them in this ever-changing world? Like, I talk a little bit about intergenerational wealth, but also just like, in such a changing environment, how do you prepare your kids for the future?
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? I think when we always talk with my wife about it, and we keep coming back to the same thing I was talking before, really, mental resilience. I think if you are driven and you have a goal, nowadays with all the resources, all the technology available, AI and so on, you can teach yourself anything and you can reach out to anyone in the world and you can make anything happen.
Yeah.
You just need that belief, like super strong belief in your plan and what you're doing in yourself and not quitting.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think education in the traditional sense of what we used to think of education, like what you learn primary school, high school, and university. That I still think it's important, but I don't think that is going to be the big differentiator of your success or not. That's almost becoming a commodity, and your ability to thrive in this chaotic but super high potential environment is what's going to set you apart. And it's a bit chaotic. There are no clear rules. It's ever changing. It's an example a couple of weeks ago or last week, DeepSeek changing the whole investing world and so on. But that's just an example of how exponential it is and how you can't really plan ahead by what's been happening until now. So the only thing you can count on is yourself and your ability to learn and plan based on the new environment.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think that, that kind of DeepSeek is a great example of it's very hard, and we don't know actually yet, but it's very hard to forecast into, those medium term places of how much CapEx, companies actually need and what's the right amount, right? Like not too cold, not too hot, because, there is a good chance that there'll be a lot of investment and it may have been overkill. Yeah. Or, and the software layer is going to get so much better that you actually can use older chips to do training or get utilization out of those prior, more cost-effective chips. And then NVIDIA will obviously see the price of their chips inevitably in that case get more kind of cost-effective or even be sold on secondary markets. People actually selling their chips because they don't need the capacity, or because there's a lot of startups that got funded as well, right? So if they no longer need their chips, then
And people thought they were going to need all this energy to power all this processing power. And so maybe like nuclear power startups, and it will have a cascade effect
totally.
on anything.
How do you feel like AI is impacting SEO?
Massively, massively, and potentially it opens the door to make mistakes and to shoot yourself in the foot if you use it the wrong way, because it's very tempting to
write loads of blog posts with AI.
And that is, I'm not necessarily against it per se, but if you just use ChatGPT out of the box and ask it to write 100 blog posts about your topic and you publish that, yes, you're gonna tank and you're gonna get your website in trouble. So you need to do it smartly. You need a framework. You need a framework. You need to feed your AI of choice with your content guidelines, with your goals, with your objective, with your brand identity, with a scenario. What are you trying to do? What type of content are you building? Blogs? Are you building landing pages, hyper local guides, buying guides, product guides? What the hell are you doing? Give them examples, and then you still need human moderation. You can't just expect the AI to come up with a perfect content. Also, on every output, it has this limit that it doesn't really like to go over around 500 words or so. So it's a process that needs to be run by a human. You will be creating an outline first and then writing section by section and putting everything together. So you can completely leverage AI. Google doesn't have a problem. Google is not against you using AI content.
At the moment.
At the moment, I don't think it will ever be, because the genie is out of the box already. But what Google has a problem with is poor quality content. And that was the case always, forever. Like, we've been through so many algorithm updates throughout the years, and they always found a way to get better at penalizing poor quality content. Yes, what they call spammy content. And before AI, people were using spinning thesaurus algorithms, and you grab an article and you put it through a software that looks for a synonym and spins it, and so you can create several versions of quote unquote unique content, and it reads like hell, and the grammar is so broken and stuff. But that's what people used to do to spam the search engines back 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So now AI makes these spamming possibilities a lot more sophisticated, and they look better and so on. So Google does have a problem with that, and you will get penalized eventually if you create poor quality content. But there's nothing wrong about leveraging AI to reproduce your top performing competitors' content strategies. You can, for example, find your competitors' sitemaps and feed that to AI, ask you to reverse engineer that. You can do all sorts of very cool things to create a super thorough content strategy that in the past, using keyword research tools and your own brain, you would take a long time, at least a couple of weeks, if not more, for a big project. Now you can get it done in a day or two and have this massively strong content strategy, and then the speed of content creation is a lot more efficient now.
So with the cost of time going down, right, ultimately,
Yeah.
what are you doing to protect yourself and protect your wealth? As you know, you have your business that generates you cash flow, but then how are you, what is your strategy for then creating kind of longevity for yourself and potentially succession planning as well? Because you might add things to your business as, as AI comes out and as there are more applications for different marketing approaches. Like, what are your initial thoughts been in terms of, I guess, succession planning? And then also, how do you, given that the price of time is basically going to zero, or price of an hour is almost going to zero.
Yeah.
How do you how are you thinking about that from a business perspective? And then how do you deal with that as an individual trying to kind of build assets and get ahead in the world?
Yeah. I would say the first part of your question is that I always had very clear that I'm not selling time to my clients. I'm selling results
Right.
and a transformation so that they get the result that they want. So for me, it's not a problem that it takes me 2 days instead of 2 weeks to create a content strategy. I'm actually happy about that, and I'm transparent with them about it.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I'm not selling consulting hours. So hey, here's 40 hours worth of my time. So I want them to do well. So the focus is on their result. And if I ever engage in a conversation where they they insist on knowing how many hours were spent in X, and therefore the price of my consulting should be X. I'm not really interested in that sort of relationship because, like I said, the focus should be on the result. So for me, it's never pushing back on the tech, always embracing it.
Yeah.
I use it to get better results for my clients. And but assuming all the good consultants, like all the good SEOs are doing that, which a lot of them are, and will keep doing it, then a lot of websites are going to have in the past year, in the next 2 to 3 years, they are all going to have a lot better content. So that just it becomes an even playful again. It's
Yeah.
just before there were 20 competitors, so their content was average. Now you have maybe 15 competitors that caught up with the new trend, and they still have excellent content, but they all do. So what's going to differentiate them and get them the tipping point to actually get those top rankings is not the great quality content that they always have, is the trust, the authority that website has in Google eyes. And Google calls this EAT, EAT, WEAT, experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And you can't get that just with great content. You need, like we talked before, the human moderation, but you also need link building. You need your website to have great links pointing to it. And so,
So people, external sites linking to you.
yeah. So everything we talked about before, AI leveraging for content, all that is great. It's not yet, but it's going to become a commodity. But still, and ironically, this is what set Google apart back in 2002 when it started and left Yahoo behind. The link algorithm, that's still what was going to make that difference. And so you still need you need to educate your clients that yes, you can have the best content in the world, but unless your website has authority, you're not going to rank. So, and then in terms of my business is really working on workflows, and I try my contractors to an extent. I'd like to have people that to an extent they can be replaced.
Yeah.
I don't like to have like this person that if they leave, it's going to be the end of my business.
Yeah.
So I like to document my workflows, which is a challenge now because everything we're talking workflows change. But still, I like to have flowcharts and workflows mapped out so that anyone can follow them.
Totally. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. And then in terms of like your kind of thinking long term around building your wealth through to retirement, and then obviously potentially giving some through generational wealth, is that something you think about a lot?
I haven't given that much thought, I'll be honest. I still feel I'm in the grind.
Yeah.
I guess eventually my mindset is going to go there.
Do you think your end goal for the business is to just continuously run it and have a profitable business for a long time? Or did you ever consider, oh, actually, after a certain amount of time, I'd like to sell it to a bigger business?
The second option probably at some point in my life.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of planning and like you're already kind of doing it with your workflows.
Yeah.
But there's so many great exercises that you can do to increase that value based on sometimes small things. Like my co-founder had a few businesses and has talked to me a lot about optimizing the enterprise value based on what the offering of the business is, and also other factors that make the valuation go higher. So, for example, in recruitment, for example, you might want to make sure you have exposure in all the major cities, including the South Island. That will take your enterprise value up more than if you're just in Auckland.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, cool. So what would there's two questions that I like to ask kind of as we come into land. In what would you like 5 years from now to look like for your business?
I like to stay ahead of the curve of whatever this AI revolution is bringing. And what we were talking before about workflows being well defined, and just being able to not be busy performing tasks, but just seeing that the whole system is running.
Right. So it's more systemization and automation of your business.
Yeah.
Do you have a certain amount of contractors that you work with now?
I have one contractor that works full time, and then depending on the project, I reach out to different contractors that I work throughout the years.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. And you'd like to grow that, or would you like to stay the same and increase your capacity by 10x?
Yeah, the second option sounds better. I don't want to become this massive human resource system that becomes a thing to manage. I want to stay focused on the task and the goals.
Yeah.
And I think just as much as I think a big company shouldn't hire a CMO, should hire a consultant instead, I think consultants, or me in this case, shouldn't be hiring a copywriter, a web developer, a dev person. I see the future being a lot more people being a lot more independent and collaborating for specific projects, and everything being a lot more flexible like that.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Okay, and then this is a bit of a doozy. This last one. What would you like the last 10 years of your life to look like?
The last 10
The
years?
last 10 years. Everyone often talks about the next 5 years.
No, actually, maybe I think more about that than the previous one.
Really?
I like to spend most of my time reading philosophy and history,
Okay.
and maybe writing about some of that. And as long as my body stays operational, keep it running and keep training jiu-jitsu, not with the same level of intensity.
Yeah.
You know the story with Elio Gracie. He was training pretty much until the end of his days. Yeah, I think until his 90th birthday.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that takes a lot of intention.
Yeah.
To be able to do that, and lack of ego.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it comes down to that, probably.
And,
right.
And having training intelligent partners.
Partners, yeah.
And probably about closer to your age.
Yeah, your age and your size as well.
Yeah.
Being a smaller jiu-jitsu competitor, it's not harder. It's not difficult to have a hard round with someone that's 10, 15 kilos heavier than you. I feel comfortable what the longevity,
Brazilian, you don't have a choice.
but the longevity of training like that against bigger opponents, I think it's not worth it.
Yeah. Well, my thinking is, you stay training at that age, you're gonna have friends around you that are all doing the same journey.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go to the 7 or 8 p.m. class to roll with the strong young blue belts.
Yeah. No.
You're gonna have a group of friends that live that through as a lifestyle.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of other training just to keep your body good for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. I'm 40. I just turned. I keep forgetting how much. I just turned 47,
Yeah.
and I don't find recovering as easy as I used to. So I need to do lots of mobility and special type of training to keep my low back, my knees, my shoulders, etc. Not only healthy but strong to withstand the impact of training. And then I need to understand my body when I'm about to get injured and maybe back up a little bit. And that's so well and good when you're not training for a competition, because when you are, you just have to like push through your injuries and that's it. But yeah.
How often do you train?
Right now, it's been a bit of a personal family situation. In January, I haven't been training that much, but on when I'm in a routine throughout the year, I'd be training 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah, cool. So, well, thank you so much for coming on the pod. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I've learned a bit about I need to get more links to our site.
Do you want to rank for any end?
And we focus on video content, so I wonder how we utilize the video content to ultimately create good written content from it, perhaps using transcripts.
Yeah.
Is that something that could be valuable for someone that's maybe creating a lot of video content, but
Yeah, and definitely. Well, you can get the transcript, and then with an AI framework, you can create good blogging content out of that.
yeah.
Like I said, you need a framework. You need, in between the AI and the output, you need a framework and a human, and off you go.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.